Welcome to this week's Resilience by Default Deep Dive podcast. Today, we're jumping right into a seriously eye-opening explainer based on Terry's article, and we're looking at these systemic risks that are, right now, threatening our operational workforce. We're talking about the absolute foundation of how organizations actually function, survive, and adapt. We often think of capability as this thing you can just go out and buy, or flip a switch to turn on. But what if we've been systematically dismantling the very mechanisms that create it? This explainer is going to walk us through a wild 30-year story of exactly how we got here and why the sudden boom in AI might literally be the final blow to our operational foundations if we don't pivot and fast. So let's just dive straight into this. Let's start with this really urgent provocation from Terry's article. Have we quietly engineered a future where Western economies no longer produce their own operational competencies? And crucially, are we about to repeat this exact same historical mistake with AI? It's a heavy question, right? We get so hyper-focused on the shiny new tools and the quick cost savings that we rarely, if ever, take a step back to look at the massive macro-level impact on our workforce. We're basically asking if we've traded our long-term operational survival for, short-term efficiency. To actually understand how we landed in this mess, we need to map out this deeply revealing 30-year operational reality. Terry's article shows how Western economies literally exported the foundation of their operational capability. It started off innocently enough, right? Back in the late 1980s, we saw the outsourcing of back-office work just to grab some quick efficiency. Then, rolling into the mid-90s and early 2000s, offshoring just accelerated like wildfire. By the 2010s, boom, we saw this massive evaporation of junior roles across the UK and the US. And now, here in the 2020s, we're actually seeing a total reversal. Companies are desperately having to import skilled offshore talent back into the UK, simply because our own domestic pipelines have completely thinned out. We completely hollowed out our own base. And the really uncomfortable truth behind why this happened, it all comes down to pure commercial gain. Advisors championed these efficiency strategies, absolutely ignoring the developmental cost to our own domestic workforce. The very same consultants who pushed these cost-saving ideas built massive, highly lucrative business models around them. Their incentives were strictly commercial, not developmental. They were totally optimizing for the balance sheet in the current quarter, completely blind to the fact that they were tearing down the exact training grounds we needed to build our future leaders and problem solvers. Which brings us to a really harsh real-world consequence. Look, this isn't just some political talking point. It's a cold, hard operational reality. By stripping away that entry-level work, we effectively erased what Terry's article calls the apprenticeship layer of the economy. This layer is the absolute bedrock. It's where people actually learn crucial judgment, process discipline, how to handle customers, and ultimately it's where they learn operational resilience. When you remove that entry-level work, you're literally snapping the bottom rungs right off the ladder. You just can't expect the next generation to confidently step up into managerial roles when the foundational steps they needed to climb up there have been completely sawed off.
Now, let's fast forward to the present day and see how this snowballs into an even larger crisis. AI is the new shockwave here. If outsourcing hollowed out the base, AI is now actively dissolving the middle. It's doing this by absorbing whatever early career training grounds we had left: first-line analysis, basic coding, customer service, compliance checks, operational monitoring, and drafting reports. Think about it. These tasks weren't just work, right? They were the training grounds. They were exactly where junior staff learned how risks emerge, how processes break down, and how decisions are made under immense pressure. And right now, AI is actively automating those exact remaining rungs of the ladder.
And that brings us to this incredibly chilling realization. Because we're stripping away the opportunity to build real operational judgment, we are hurtling toward a highly credentialed but dangerously underexperienced workforce. As Terry's article puts it, we're creating a workforce that knows the theory but has never actually touched the engine. It's kind of like asking a pilot to land a commercial jet in the middle of a hurricane when they've only ever flown on autopilot. Just imagine being expected to supervise an advanced AI system that's running a complex network without ever having done the granular foundational work that the system is now doing for you. It's a complete recipe for disaster. This isn't progress, it's fragility totally disguised as innovation. So the crucial takeaway here is that this creates what's called the confidence gap.
Basically, this is that highly dangerous space between what leaders assume their workforce can do and what their workforce has actually had the chance to learn. We are already seeing the glaring symptoms of this gap everywhere across the UK right now. You've got graduates entering the workforce and dropping straight into analyst or manager roles with zero operational grounding. Organizations are desperately struggling to find staff who are actually capable of making decisions under uncertainty or challenging broken systems or just understanding these massively complex operational interdependencies. There's a really critical insight here from Terry's article that we absolutely must grasp. The common, everyday assumption is that AI simply replaces human capability. But the dangerous reality? AI replaces human apprenticeship. Let's be clear. AI is not going to eliminate our need for human judgment. In fact, we're going to need it more than ever when these highly complex systems inevitably fail. But AI will eliminate the opportunity for our young workforce to actually develop that judgment in the first place. You see, resilience is built through exposure. Exposure to failure, to ambiguity, to real consequence. If we outsource that lived experience to AI, we are literally outsourcing our resilience. Okay, so how do we fix this? To cure this systemic fragility, we've got to intentionally rebuild capability for the workforce of tomorrow. We have to deliberately teach the things that AI fundamentally cannot learn through basic pattern recognition. We can't just sit back and rely on people passively picking up operational experience anymore, because those entry-level tasks, they just aren't there. We have to actively design environments where experience, failure, and judgment are explicitly taught and practiced. So what exactly must this new apprenticeship look like? Well, first off, it has to focus intensely on socio-technical complexity and systems thinking, really understanding failure modes and how things interdepend. It requires teaching operational judgment, meaning how to make decisions under uncertainty and having strict escalation discipline. We also need resilience literacy, understanding things like supply chain fragility and physical risk. And crucially, we have to double down on the uniquely human skills that AI just can't replicate. Empathy, negotiation, conflict resolution. We need experience-based learning through intense crisis simulations and real-world exposure, combined with genuine AI fluency. Not just blind dependence on the tech, but actual fluency. Terry's article highlights a truly brilliant rule of thumb for this new era. AI solves problems. Humans must define them. This is exactly why critical thinking and problem framing are going to become our absolute most valuable assets. Think of AI as a fantastic execution engine. It's incredibly fast. But humans, we must be the ones setting the parameters, validating the data, and defining the actual real-world problems that need solving. Because if we don't train our people to frame the problems correctly, the AI is just going to execute the wrong solutions with terrifying efficiency. The executive reality here is crystal clear, and honestly, it's a pretty hard truth for a lot of boardrooms to swallow. Resilience by default is a design principle. It is not just some corporate buzzword you throw into a slide deck. If a capability is essential to your license to operate, you must build it. You cannot outsource it. We simply cannot afford to outsource our future. Think about the timeline we just walked through. We exported our operational base, we offshored our apprenticeship layer, and now AI is starting to automate whatever scraps are left. Leaders need to wake up and recognize that owning your core capabilities is an absolutely non-negotiable requirement for survival. Thankfully, Terry's article doesn't just leave us sounding the alarm. It gives us a specific, highly actionable blueprint for organizational leaders to actually follow. It shows us exactly how to redesign education and workplace exposure before AI permanently rips the ladder away from the next generation. It's all about intentionally structuring the workplace to ensure that true competence is produced natively, deliberately, and consistently, day in and day out. To make this happen, leaders must immediately follow these 5 critical steps. Number 1, rebuild that apprenticeship layer through highly structured operational exposure and simulations. Number 2, totally redesign education around systems thinking and human capability. Number 3, treat AI as an augmentation tool, absolutely not a replacement for early career development. Number 4, create robust domestic pipelines that produce actual operational competence, not just a bunch of academic credentials. And finally, number 5, hold leaders accountable for capability design, not just basic cost optimization. The next generation isn't going to compete by being more technical. They're going to compete by being more human, more systemic, and far more resilient. Which brings us to a really powerful closing thought from Terry's article. Resilience is not what you implement. Resilience is what you evidence when it matters. And that evidence? It begins entirely with capability, built deliberately, protected intentionally, and designed as resilience by default. We have got to ensure we don't let our shiny new tools erase the very experiences that make us capable of leading and protecting our systems in the first place. Because ask yourself this, if the AI goes down tomorrow, who in your building actually knows how to keep the lights on? Podcast released every Tuesday on Spotify and YouTube.
Like, subscribe, and repost. It helps us build the channel and focus on what's important to you.